Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now let's start with the first story. It's called Test Everything. This happened about 5 years ago, when I was working at a small tech repair shop. Our boss was this guy named Sergey. A classic control freak who thought being in charge made him smarter than everyone else. He didn't know much about tech, but loved sticking his nose in and telling us how to do our jobs. Usually we in the shop would just nod and do things our way, but this time I decided to follow his rules exactly. And here's how that turned out. We got an order to fix an old industrial printer. A rare beast, bulky, barely any manuals. But I'd worked on a couple before, so I knew right away what was wrong. A clock in one of the feed gears and a worn out belt. Disassemble, clean, swap a few parts. 5 hours tops. I laid out a plan for Sergey. He listened, then launched into his usual speech. No, you don't get it. It's an electrical issue. You need to check the board. Test everything with a multimeter. I'm the boss here. Do it my way. I tried explaining it was mechanical, but he started yelling that I was young, overconfident and clueless. And if I didn't follow his orders, I could go home without pay. Fine, I thought. You are the boss, you know best. I grabbed the multimeter, took the printer apart down to the last screw and started testing every circuit on the board. Exactly like he told me. It was slow, tedious and completely unnecessary, because I knew from the start the board wasn't the issue. But I didn't just test it. I documented everything for a report, wrote down readings, snapped pictures of every step, even sketched diagrams so Sergey could see how thorough I was. It took me 2 full days when I could have fixed the thing in half a day. Finally, I walked up to him with a stack of papers and said, "Sergey, checked it all. Board's fine. What now?" He turned red as a beet. The client had already called, frustrated about the delay. At that point he assumed I had sabotaged him on purpose, though he set himself up for it, and barked at me to deal with the mechanics since you are so smart. I shrugged, went back, cleaned the gears, swapped the belt, the stuff I'd planned to do all along. A day later the printer was done. The client was happy, but Sergey looked like he'd been through a week-long spin circle. After that he tried bossing me around a couple more times, but I just asked, like with that printer your way, and he'd go quiet real fast. The next story is called Followed the Rules. Working in IT, my friend and I had a decent gig. Nothing crazy, just coding, fixing bugs, the usual. Let's call our manager Karen. She had her rules, sure, but nothing too wild. Until one day, she introduced a new policy. No more working on multiple tasks at once, she said. Focus on one thing at a time. Complete it, then move on. On paper, made sense. Less context switching, more efficiency. In reality, an absolute nightmare. We tried to explain. Hey, sometimes we need to switch while waiting on approvals or testing. She shut us down. No, stick to the task, no exceptions. Okay then. A week in, tickets piled up. We were stuck waiting on feedback with nothing to do. Customers got frustrated. Deadlines slipped. We tried again. Look, this isn't working. You're just not adapting, she snapped. So we adapted, by doing exactly what she wanted. No multitasking. If we hit a block, we sat there. No side tasks, no quick fixes. Just waiting. Then the backlog exploded. Higher ups noticed. Clients complained. One day Karen got called into a meeting. She came back looking different. The next morning we got an email from HR. She was out. New manager came in. The first thing he said, "Hey, so you guys work how you used to, yeah? Yeah, we do." The third story is called Fiscal Responsibility. About 20 years ago, I worked for a small state agency, where supervisors, quality reviewers and trainers were all on the same pay scale, and you could transfer between roles. One of the supervisors was promoted to area manager. Each state had 4 areas, and our office dynamics changed. Normally, these 3 classifications served as backups for the security system, with the manager being fully responsible. And if the trainer and all the supervisors were out of the office, one of us, reviewers or trainers, would be in charge. Fast forward 6 months. Upper management scheduled a 2-day training for the manager and the supervisors. I made the mistake of asking who would be in charge while they were gone. The new manager looked at me and said, "None of you are in charge, since you don't have the fiscal responsibility that I and the supervisors have." It was said in a very clear, stay in your place kind of tone. Since I was nearing retirement, I thought, great, one less responsibility for me. What I actually said was, glad to know. Fast forward another 4 months, and it was time to rotate the security system backup team. The manager looked at me and my partner and said it was the quality reviewer's turn. I looked at her and said, it seems that if quality reviewers don't have fiscal responsibility and can't be in charge when management is out, then we also can't be responsible for security backup. The manager opened her mouth, closed it again, and turned an interesting shade of red. After the meeting, my partner and the trainers were all pretty pleased, as was I. The 4 supervisors, however, were not. The next story is called Coffee Compliance. Many years ago, I had just been hired as a rookie firefighter in a moderately sized city in the southeastern United States. Other than the usual ribbing that rookies always get, my probationary year wasn't too bad. However, there was one lieutenant that no one liked at all. And wouldn't you know it, I got assigned to his engine company for a 3-month rotation. He insisted that I handle all the station chores, which was normal. But he also demanded that I have coffee ready at all times for the senior firefighters, and threatened to give me poor evaluations if I didn't. That part was not normal, and the rest of the engine company knew it. Since I was a rookie and didn't want a bad evaluation, I decided to give him exactly what he wanted. From the perspective of someone who doesn't drink coffee, I completely filled the coffee filter to the brim, leveling it off at the top. Then I used only about half to 3/4 of the usual amount of water. The result was that the coffee was so strong and thick that you practically had to cut a piece off after pouring it. It was completely undrinkable. I made it twice. It took just 2 times before I was officially ordered never to make coffee again. And in the end, I still got terrific evaluations. The last story is called Small Win. I work in HR. Recently, an employee called me with a serious concern. One that, due to legal regulations, I couldn't personally resolve. I explained this, and they requested that the issue be escalated to my superior. They also mentioned they were considering legal action if it wasn't properly addressed. While the employee was on hold, I spoke with my manager, who said they couldn't take the call at that moment, but instructed me to escalate it to them via the email thread the employee had already started. I relayed this to the employee, who seemed satisfied, and then I sent the email to my manager right after the call. A week later, my manager responded to the email thread, with the employee included, added me and said they'd have me handle it from there. They hadn't sent any other email or taken any action in the meantime. They simply waited a week and then handed it back to me. I followed up with my manager privately, without the employee included, reminding them of the situation and why they had originally agreed to handle it. Their response? It was my responsibility and that they didn't have time. They also denied ever agreeing to take over, so I handled it. I explained to the employee once again that there was nothing we could do and that I couldn't provide further assistance or escalate the case any higher. A few weeks later, a lawsuit was filed, and guess who suddenly stepped in to manage the situation? But it was too late. The chief people officer and president were already involved. Thankfully, I had documented everything, including my manager's refusal to take over, which helped prevent further legal trouble. They weren't fired, but they were removed from a supervisory role. I'd call that a win. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, Please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.